Hey guys, what is going on? We are in the zone, and in today's episode, we're going to start this one off with the Toronto Maple Leafs. They are up 3-2 against the Tampa Bay Lightning. It's been a hell of a series, very, very close the last couple of games. 1-goal games in the last 3 straight. Aulino, we got to quickly go over game 5 as it was another elimination meltdown from the Leafs. They're now 0-11 in these type of games. Aulino, after what you've seen, the resilience in game 3 and game 4, and then you look into game 5, closing it out, couldn't get it done. What is your analysis of this team right now? And do you think they have the mental toughness to get over this one?
I hope so, because we've seen this far too long. It's as a Leaf fan, it's disappointing. They finally get to a point where they can close this out in 5. Like last year, they let it get away. The champs came in, but the Leafs showed in this series that they can get the job done. They came back. It was roles reversed from when they played Boston all those years ago. They were the team now that came back and won it 5-4. The fan base is going crazy. All they had to do was close it out. They couldn't do it, and now you have to go back to Tampa and hope lightning strikes twice there. So I'm going to hope that the Leafs close this out at 6 and they learn what it means to win. They have some winners on the roster right now, like Ryan O'Reilly, a proven Stanley Cup winner. It's about time they get to this next phase because I can't go through another Game 7 with this team. It's too difficult to watch.
Yeah, I don't know if they want to go to game 7 purposely because sometimes it looks like they kind of want to do it. But I've read somewhere, Aulino, where some analysts were saying, did you really think the Leafs were going to win in 5 and 4 in a row? I mean, we see game 3, game 4, they get outplayed and they somehow manage to get the victories in both games. I hope that this team has the mental toughness because that to me is their only hurdle. They can be as dominant offensively as they have been all year, but at the end of the day, it comes down to these important games, and they just have never been able, since the Matthews era, never been able to really go through it. Doesn't matter who they bring in. They brought in Marleau. They brought in so many, like Joe Thornton. They brought in a lot of veterans, and they still haven't been able to get it done. Aulino, I do want to ask you, though, throughout this playoff series so far, to me, the best player on the Leafs has been Morgan Rielly for sure. And we've seen throughout the regular season a lot of criticism with his play. How do you think Morgan Rielly has really been able to turn this gear on and lead the Leafs to success in this postseason?
Yeah, I'm really impressed with the way Morgan Rielly's been playing. This is a guy that was almost a point per game a couple seasons ago, and he's really turned it on and showed that he's a leader on this team. Clutch goals here. Unfortunately, Tampa comes back and scores, but at least Rielly did his end of the bargain there. Scored early, put the team on his back, and there's some situations he's going back. He's breaking up plays. He's doing everything you need from a top defenseman. It's just they're getting unlucky there because then you have Justin Hall on the other end. Sometimes just letting his guy go a little too easily, and then they score. So I think what Rielly's been able to do has been impressive, and I think he is among probably the Leafs that if they get past this round, that's going to be him, Matthews, and probably Marner if he got that breakaway goal. I think we'd be talking about him a lot more. But Rielly and Matthews have really took another step in their game.
Yeah, Matthews for sure, man. He's been scoring a lot, and in clutch time too. In the third period, I think he leads all players in goals in the third period in this playoff, and it's been crazy to watch because we've talked about his lack of effort, his lack of results individually in these big time games, and what you see from him. It's amazing, and I feel like he's with his maturity level we've seen in press conferences. It's gotten a lot more. It's gotten a lot better. He's a lot more serious. He really wants to win. And I think it's showing on the ice too. And yeah, it's unfortunate with Marner missing that breakaway in game 5 and really could have maybe been maybe could have been it right there, right? Like if he got that goal, that might have been it. So I think, Matthews has been out of this world in the third period, which is again, what we need from him. O'Reilly has won probably most of the battles in the corners. And then you have Noel Acciari, where the guy's leading the series in hits, which is something that is just never – it's a stat that's never really talked about enough anymore because, again, we're in a softer league. But it is what it is. But, Aulino, what do you think the Leafs have to do in Game 6? Because I feel like this team is due to have a breakout offensive game. I think it's just the level of urgency that they need to bring in Game 6.
Yeah, I think they need to score early like they did in Game 5, and except this time, right when they score that goal, just park the bus against soccer. Just defensive, go right in, look for openings, don't rush anything. Because I think when they scored that first goal in Game 5, the crowd energy was in their favor. They had all the momentum, and I think they got a little too overzealous there and tried to rush in and get a second one quickly. So if you get that early first goal, just take a breather, back up defensively, just control all the pace that's going to be coming because their crowd's going to be rallying behind them. And then once you see that little opening again, then go for the kill. So they need to be a little bit more tactical after they score a goal and make sure that Tampa's not coming up and get these little soft goals and soft little high sticking penalties on them.
Yeah, even the reffing too, I think it's been a little questionable. We've seen, Game 3, Game 4, even Game 5 with the trip on Marner, trip on Matthews, high stick on Nyes. It's playoff hockey. People have to understand. I guess the refs are going to let them play a little bit more. But Aulino, this brings me to my next point. Matthew Nyes, the rookie out of Michigan, or was it Michigan? Just coming out of college, he had expectations, high expectations, kind of like what we saw back with Nick Robertson in that Columbus series coming in. The Leaf fan base excited for a fresh new face. What have your thoughts been on Matthew Nyes, man? He's been blocking shots. He's been hitting. He's unbelievable with his stick. What are your thoughts on Nyes? Do you expect him to be in the top 6 tonight with Bunting coming back, or do you think he'll maybe slide down to the 3rd?
I think wherever he plays, he's been a proven game breaker at times. Like the way he's just coming out of college, I think he played only like 4 games before the playoffs, and the way he's moving, it's like he's been playing all season with this team. Just the guys on Tampa can't even get the puck off him. He's strong. He's going around some guys like pylons at times, and he's able to create plays, and he's a scoring threat. That's what you want, I think, from your team. Yeah, the grit and toughness is all great, but if you can be that scoring threat, it adds like another line that you can go and roll out there and hopefully get another goal. So I think he's been an important piece of this team, and it makes sense now why Kyle Dubas didn't want to really trade him, and they were a little bit hesitant about moving him for just a short-term rental. Now you have Nyes coming in on a rookie deal. You have him in for next year and then the year after that. So I think the Leafs are in the driver's seat with him, and if he continues to perform like this, he can be probably one of the biggest steals that they've had in recent memory.
I agree with that, man. I think I'm looking at his game, and it's the confidence for me. Coming into these games, specifically playoff games, what separates the elite from the average is the level of confidence coming in. We saw Cale Makar, man, when he was in college, he goes and he helps Colorado in that playoff series. And, I think they put him on the second power play to start, and it was like a game later, he's already on the top power play just based off his confidence level. You have other guys like Jimmy Vesey, Jeremy Bracco, these guys who thrived in college and they couldn't translate to the NHL level. So, the 2 guys that I'm really looking at in this playoff so far, one that's been better than the other, you have Luke Hughes on one hand, coming from college, going to New Jersey, hasn't really done his fair share so far. And then you have Matthew Nyes coming over, and he's already in the top 6 playing with Tavares and Nylander. That's just based off his confidence level. So I think confidence level is a big area here that not a lot of guys talk about with these college players. I think Matthew Nyes has all the confidence in the world. And let's not forget the size, as he's 6'3", 240. So hopefully tonight Nyes can get a goal. But Aulino, I got to quickly go over to the other side because it is, it's not just about the Leafs. It's the Lightning as well. We've seen Cirelli, man. He's been that playoff performer for so many years. I said to my brother the other night, I think he's been their best player for Tampa in the series. Do you agree, or do you think there's maybe someone else that's floating under the radar in this one?
Yeah, I think Sorelli's a good pick. I think it's he's been a guy that even on the face-offs, just what he's been able to do. Tavares, it seemed like couldn't win a face-off the last 2 games, so they were even going at Nylander at one point to try and get something on the power play. It worked for a little bit, but Sorelli has been a really effective guy there on the penalty kill for them, and probably costs Toronto some power play goals because he wins a face-off and they clear it out. I just think that Vasilevsky has shown up a little bit. Had those couple games where he let in 7 goals, and then the other one where the comeback from the Leafs happened. But overall, like what he showed on the Marner breakaway, he was calm in that situation, and that would probably what cost the Leafs another win and kept Tampa alive. So he's made big saves when he needed to make them. That kept Tampa in it. So I'll go with Sorelli and Vasilevsky.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think too, because I don't want to jinx it or anything, but Stamkos, Point have not really done too much. We've had O'Reilly basically glued to Stamkos for most of the series, and it's been beneficial. And we saw Braden Point go through that scary incident with Morgan Riley. Maybe that's another issue of maybe he's not performing. But I thought other than maybe the Hagel Sorelli, Nick Paul line, I believe that's a line, or it's no, sorry, it's Sorelli, Hagel, and Killorn. I think other than that line, it's been a pretty good defensive game by the Leafs. But tonight is game 6. We got to see what happens. Go Leafs, go. Hopefully Samsonov again, 2-0 in Tampa Bay. Let's see if the Leafs can finally close out and get a first round series win since 2004, 19 years ago. So with that being said, we're going to move on to the other games today. We got the Devils and the Rangers in Aulino. First 2 games of the series, it was 5-1 for the Rangers in both games. The Devils, they may have that inexperience, but they have shown resilience. And win 3 straight games, they shut out the Rangers at Madison Square Garden in game number 5. Aulino, what are your thoughts on this team here? Do you see the Devils taking it now, or do you still think with Patrick Kane, Tarasenko, Zibanejad, Panarin, you think they could still potentially win this one in 7?
I'm gonna actually lean towards New Jersey now. At the start, I thought the Rangers would probably close it out early, maybe 5 the most. They'll give them 1 game, but what I saw at Game 5, I'm worried if I'm the Rangers management because you sacrificed a lot. You brought in Tarasenko, then you go and bring in Patrick Kane and made it work. So if this doesn't work, somebody's getting fired 100%. This is a first round matchup that it was probably a favorable one for you and like coming into it. You have all these guys that have won a Stanley Cup. You have an offensive team. You have 2 like first and second overall picks on your team, and you still are losing now in Game 6 going into Jersey, game deciding win for them. So if they get eliminated here, it's going to be rough, and Jersey's going to have the crowd in their favor here. So they didn't do themselves any favors by losing at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, and you know what the beauty thing is too with a mismatch is you look at inexperience, man. And as good as Jack Hughes is, as good as Nico Hischier is, they don't have that experience in the playoffs. But Akira Schmid, man, the goalie, comes in after game 2, and he's shut the door against this Ranger team. And Zibanejad's been really cold, but you got to give the Devils credit. I said in our preview, the Devils have allowed the least amount of shots in this whole season per game. So they've stuck to that formula. Dougie Hamilton is a phenomenal defenseman. You know how much I praise him on this show. I just think that the X factor here has been Jack Hughes. He's been able to get his offense going at the right time. He's been the best player in the series. He's arguably the best player with both these teams here. Shesterkin has allowed a couple stinkers. And the only thing that I'm worried about if I'm the Rangers, let's say they win a game 6, Timo Meier has been relatively quiet. So I think he's due to have a huge game in at least one of these games. So Jack Hughes has been phenomenal. Nico Hischier has been that guy that shut down Panarin all series long. And you got to love what this story with this New Jersey goaltender. It's been phenomenal to see. And me, Aulino, my childhood team, the Devils, they're coming alive. And the last time I remember seeing the Rangers and the Devils in a playoff series, we saw Adam Henrique bury it against Lundqvist to have them go to the Stanley Cup Finals. So It's one of those instances here where I feel like this is like 10 years in the past, and the Devils 10 years ago had their number. I think it might happen again.
Yeah, I agree. I think we might see it now. Jersey. We could see Jersey, Florida, Toronto in the second round. Like, what the hell?
Hey, and you know what? Let's quickly move on. We'll talk more about this the Oilers and the Kings for tonight. This series has been a roller coaster. You think the Tampa Bay Toronto one has been crazy. This one to me has been unbelievable. I mean, for me, the narrative Aulino is with Skinner and Korpisalo, two goalies that just haven't really performed too well. They put Jack Campbell in game 5, and it got the job done. But I got to give all the credit here to the Kings. I said in our pod, I thought this was going to be a 5-game series. I thought they were going to absolutely run them out, but Philip Deneau in the first 3 games absolutely shut down McDavid to perfection. But as we've seen, when you shut one guy down, you can't necessarily shut the other guy down in Leon. Aulino, what have your initial thoughts been on Leon Draisaitl as he's looked like one of the most unstoppable playoff performers in recent memory?
Yeah, it's LA. It's another roller coaster, like you said. Like, this is one where in game 4, I think they let it slip, and it might cost them the series. It could have went up 3-1, and the Oilers, they would have just caved. I think they would have given up, but they ended up coming back, and now the Oilers get a win. They get another one, and they're up here. So it would be nice if the Kings can get it done here, push it to 7, but I have a feeling we might see a second round matchup of Connor McDavid, Jack Eichel. So I won't be disappointed with that. I think that'll be fun regardless. But I think it would have been a nice story though if Kopitar and Doughty could have had this and still showed that they're capable of leading their team and take out one of the most offensively gifted duos in NHL history.
I mean, the narrative would have been great regardless, right? With Vegas winning, let's say the Kings end up winning the series, you have Quick versus Old Team in the
Yeah.
second round, or you got McDavid and Eichel going at it. So I want to quickly go over some of the results of the other series or lack thereof. We got this series, man. I said it the first day. The Panthers and the Bruins was going to be 7 games. Here we are. Bruins are up comfortably 3-1. It goes into overtime in game 5. Allmark with the terrible giveaway. Tkachuk gets the game winner. And then what does Tkachuk say right after game 5? We're going to go in. We're going to beat them at home, and we're going to force a game 7. And that is what happened yesterday. An absolute barn burner. Reinhart gets the empty netter. 7-5, the final. Aulino, I've said this. Bobrovsky comes in after I think it was game 4. Bobrovsky came in for game 5. He's 2-0 against the Bruins in this series. He's 6-0 against President's Trophy teams. If you're Boston, are you worried, or do you really rely on that home ice to get the job done? Because Florida has looked hungry, and take this in, Aulino, it's the biggest point differential between playoff seeds of all time, 42 points. So if Florida can get this done, this might be even more impressive than the Columbus one against the Lightning.
Yeah, I think Bobrovsky is on the case again, and the backup they have has been a great story. But Bobrovsky's getting paid the big bucks, and he's going to prove why they gave him $10 million. I think he's coming in, and that streak is going to continue. I don't think it's going to end. I think he's going to prove that when called upon and these kind of moments, this is where he's going to thrive. And Boston, I know typically it would be a positive thing going into your home ice on game 7, game deciding game. But this is not the kind of situation that's in their favor here, because at the end of the game on Sportsnet, they were talking about, do you go with Swayman instead of Allmark? Like, Allmark had that kind of season. I know Swayman's a nice goalie and everything, but that just shows a lack of faith in your goaltending. And if you're going to go with Swayman, that would send a bad message, because if that goes bad and you guys lose, the coach probably can get fired out of this. Like, this is a point differential here. Like, you had this record-setting season. That's all great. But if you lose because of that, because you went with the goalie, like, that's a way to get fired. I think to save his job and save face in the organization, say you went with Omar because it shows that you back your guys. Because If you go with Swayman and he lets in 3 goals and you have to make a change in the second period, you can already start looking and passing your resume around the league, because I think you won't be back next year.
Hey, you know what, man? And it's crazy to think, because the first thing I thought of after last night's game was Tuukka Rask would never do this. He would never put the Bruins in this position. And that's my narrative on Ullmark. I stick with it all the time. If I don't have faith in a goalie, Aulino, the only guy that's really made me eat my words over the years has really been Markstrom. And he's like, I said Leonard wasn't really too good when he had the Vezina winner. I said Grubauer wasn't too good when he had a good year. And now I said it with Ullmark. And look what's happening here. Like, it's tough to have consistent goaltending in the National Hockey League. And this is where you got to be a good goalie. If you're going to be a Vezina winner, look at Lundqvist all those years. Yeah, he didn't win the Vezina all the time, but when it came to the playoffs, he'd at least get you a series win every round or every time. So Ullmark has not looked good the last 2 games. And, you go up 3-1. Maybe they let their guard down a little bit, the Bruins, but their top guys have not been too impressive. Like Pasternak, I think, only has 3 goals in 6 games, coming off 60-something goals in the season. Taylor Hall has been phenomenal for the Bruins. They need more from Marchand. They need more from McAvoy if they really want to get the job done here, because I said before the pod went live, Brandon Montour has just been absolutely phenomenal on the back end for the Panthers. And guys like Sam Reinhart, Lundell, Luosterainen, the depth on Florida is really coming alive in this series when it has to. So we all know, me and you, I think at some point in our lives, we might have to go to Hockey Life, get a Bobrovsky shirt, because it's the narrative of this podcast. It's been lingering. It's like the ghost of Sergei isn't in the zone. It's been 4 years. We've been talking about him. We love that guy. We love his pressers. Basically the new Brizgalov, if you think about it. I'm going with the Florida Panthers, man, getting this done in 7, as I did say 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think they're going to win it. I think game 6, I had Boston, just because I thought, like you mentioned there, their experience would go in play in their favor. But now you're going back there after that. And once I heard about the debate on the goaltending, that lost it for me. So once I heard that, I thought, okay, Florida has all this momentum now, and I think you're going to take advantage of it. And this is going to be a huge upset in this Eastern Conference, where we thought Boston should have been penciled into the next round. But like Miami right now, they're going to be rocking there with the Panthers. So at least they're going to get some home ice, and they might get some local market attention, because Tampa Bay, if they're out of the playoffs, Florida's got something else to look at.
It's going to be Florida's team, the Panthers over the Lightning, man, moving forward. Hey, you never know, right? But I want to quickly talk more about the series that have officially concluded. We'll start with the Islanders and the Carolina Hurricanes. That series to me was a war. Every game was an under. Sorokin was great. Ranta actually playing, to me, was the surprise. I thought they'd play Anderson. They did later in the series, but they did go with Ranta to start. Don't really know why, but it did work out. Aulino, with all these injuries with Carolina, you have Aho take a puck off the face. He's still playing. Svech is out for the series. Pacioretty is out. Teravainen broke his hand. Just so many obstacles for Carolina, yet they still get it done. Brent Burns has been an absolute freak of nature, as he always is in the playoffs. Did you really like the way Carolina played here, or did you think maybe the Islanders were the team to favor here? Because I thought as the series went on, the Islanders were the better team.
Yeah, I think they were too. And I think even though the Islanders are out now, I think this season was a success for them, because I don't think they really had a shot at one point to make the playoffs. And the Bo Horvat trade happens, and there was still win loss, they weren't really consistent. Then all of a sudden they started getting all these wins together, and it kind of like Florida, where they both get hot at one point and they end up in the playoffs instead of Pittsburgh or Washington. So I think the Islanders was a nice year, and they can build on it for next year. They have Horvat long term, but Carolina, with all those injuries, it's going to be tough next round, especially if you're playing a team like New Jersey. If they get past the Rangers, you're going to have this extra time off, but you got to hope Anderson is completely healthy. And what we saw wasn't just he came in and it was a fortunate game for him where he had to just make some big saves here and there. But I would put Brent Burns up forward again. if you're going to switch things up. And you look at what Jersey has with Meyer. If you want to match that up, Burns has played forward in the past. Maybe you throw him up once in a while and he goes in front of the net, cause some havoc. So I think you're going to have to change up their game plan a little bit.
Yeah, and that's another reason too why I'm looking at how resilient New Jersey's been, man. You're down 2-0, and you see a favorable situation where you look at Carolina's stars are injured, and they somehow come back down 2-0. They win 3 straight. If the Devils can somehow manage to get rid of Shesterkin, who in my eyes is a top 3 goalie in this playoffs, you go on, you're facing a shaky Frederik Andersen and a banged up Carolina team. It's not so far-fetched to see the Devils go to the conference finals. And hey, I'm as much of a Devil fan as I am a Leaf fan, but like, if you're the Leafs in this situation where you potentially knock out Tampa, if Boston's eliminated, it's wide open, I think, for the Leafs. And I don't want to jinx it by any means, but they swept Florida, I believe, in the season. You could potentially be taking on a young New Jersey team in the conference finals. It looks like it could be falling into place, but I'm not gonna write off Carolina yet. They do have the experience. It's like we're just writing Carolina off, not doing that. But I do like what you said there. Brent Burns has played forward many times. You can go with the 7, maybe have 11 forwards, put Chatfield on the third pairing. You could put Burns on the second line with Nikish and Seth Jarvis. 2 young guys going with the old grizzled vet over there in Burns. It could work out, but Jack Hughes is an absolute nightmare, and we got to see, because if the Rangers do end up coming back and winning this, it's not a lost season for the Devils. This season for the Devils is like the Leafs in 2016 when they first made the playoffs. Very, very low expectations for playoff success. They just want the experience. They got it this year. I do think the Devils still beat the Rangers here, but if they don't, it's still a success either way, I think, for the Devils. So either way, Carolina winning was much deserved, especially them being banged up. But then we got to go on to the series in the West, man. And I think it was pretty predictable if you think about it. I had Dallas in 6, and it came through. Dallas, to me, was the better team, maybe other than Game 3, where they got absolutely eviscerated on the road to Minnesota. But, Aulino, what were your initial thoughts on game number 1 with the Wild going with Marc-Andre Fleury? I know he's had all that playoff success, but Philip Gustafsson, man, in the season had like a .930 save percentage. Do you think it was the right call to potentially blow that first game, putting Fleury in, or do you think they had the right decision going with the veteran in game 1?
Normally, I would have said, like, go with the better goalie, but I think it was a safe option going with Fleury. He's been there before. What he did on Vegas was crazy, especially after the way Pittsburgh just kind of just let him out to dry there and going the expansion draft. They regretted that with the way Murray got injured, but I think it was a smart play on their behalf and ended up working because now Gustafsson looked like he got the confidence from stepping in, and he knows Fleury's on the bench there, who's going to be a good teammate. So I think for them, it's really good to see. And Dallas right now, they look like a powerhouse in the West. Complete team, has so much depth. Now you have goaltending because you know that your backup can step in and play that kind of minutes in the playoffs and not look out of place. And you have a Stanley Cup winner right behind them. So if anything goes off, you can throw Fleury in there and they'll probably steer the ship in the right direction. So I think Dallas is a scary team right now.
Yeah, man, I think Dallas is going to the conference. That's just my opinion. You can take what you want with that, but what we saw from Dallas in the first series is that, yes, they are complete. They're scary, and they can get offense from 3 straight lines consistently. You got Wyatt Johnson, Marchman, and Domi on one line. Sagan, you got Sagan, Robertson, and I believe it's Faxa on the other line. And then you have, of course, Rupe Hintz and Jamie Benn on the top line, who've been absolutely torching teams every single game. So you got the goalie in Ottinger, who to me is probably a top 5 goalie in this playoff, no doubt about it. He's the only goalie that has a shutout. I think Dallas, when you see what we've seen with the Seattle and Colorado series, which we're going to get into, I think Dallas just has the much more confidence. They're a lot more controlled. They're a lot more physical. And we've seen, man, physicality gets you places in the playoffs. So I think Dallas has that recipe for success, and we got to see how far they go. But the other series that ended was a cakewalk, and I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. The Jets, I had the Jets winning in 7 games, and the injury bug came in early. Morrissey got hurt with his knee, and then Scheifele was out, and Ehlers was missing games. And what were your thoughts on this series, Aulino? I know you're a big, Kessel, Eichel, Vegas fan. Did you see this one ending in 5 like it did, or did you see this being a little bit more competitive?
Yeah, I just want to say their Vegas coach, what the fuck, man? Scratching Phil Kessel. What are you doing? Like, you don't scratch Phil Kessel, but he did. And I hope he puts him back in the next game because you don't scratch Phil the thrill. That's not a part of the deal. I hope it was just like a rest thing and they knew they were going to win. And if Winnipeg beat them, you could throw Phil in the next game and he's recharged and ready to go. But that was a little disappointing. And it could have bit them in the end because like Kessel in I think it was the game before, he had 2 assists and every time he was touching the puck, it was just another threat on the wing. So he could add something, even if you throw him on the 4th line, where the team's going to have to look out because he has playmaking ability and it could lead to something there, even on the second power play unit. But the Winnipeg Jets coach, it took up until them getting eliminated. I thought this was going to happen earlier in the year, but it happened right when they got eliminated. He threw the team under the bus, and I'm surprised he did it. Like, he pretty much said, like, I didn't want to be – these guys didn't want to be here in Game 5, and if I'm coaching here nights, if I'm not, I can care less. Like, that's what I took from that. Like, he threw that team under the bus so quickly, and I was actually surprised by that.
Yeah, the fact that he just called out all his star players. It's like he knew that. We talked about it last offseason, man. Like Scheifele, Wheeler were all rumored to go, and I don't think either of them are staying here. I think they're both gone. Even Dubois has been rumored to Montreal forever. You lose those 3 guys. Technically, you could just rebuild at this point. Maybe even trade Morrissey because you could probably get a shit ton for him, but I thought it was going to be a lot more competitive, man. Like, you have Hellebuck, the better goalie. I thought he would maybe steal a couple games, but he was terrible in the series, man. He didn't play well. You just saw the lack of confidence after Game 2. It was just one of those where, they lose, what was it, Game 3, 5-4 in overtime, and it was just so heartbreaking to lose 5-4 in overtime in Winnipeg. And, from day one, I just felt like the Jets, after that first loss, it was like, they were up 1-0. After the Game 2 loss, it was like, okay, like, we're not good enough to get the job done here with these injuries. So I'm surprised to see Winnipeg go down as quick as they did. But at the same time, Vegas is talented, man. And Chandler Stevenson, I don't know why the freaking Caps got rid of this guy. He's amazing. He's a great top 6 forward. He brings the best out of Riley Smith and Mark Stone, and this Vegas team is scary. I want to see Eichel do well, as he was in the crapshoot in Buffalo for years. So this is his first playoff series, and it's saying a lot for Eichel. He's been performing well, and we'll see if Vegas can go toe-to-toe with the Kings or probably the Oilers, but it's not over yet. But it's going to be a hell of a story. And, hey, you're going to have Pietrangelo and Theodore trying to guard McDavid. That's going to be fun, right?
Do you think Jonathan Quick will see him? I think he has a performance in him where if he gets in there and saves the day, I think he can be the goalie that they go with because he has that proven ability. And I think it would be a nice story for Jonathan Quick if he can actually like possibly lead Vegas to a Stanley Cup final.
Hey, man, you know what? Honestly, I think it would be a hell of a story. I know they have Brossoit playing pretty well right now, but it's like I said to you, when you have these type of goalies coming into the playoffs, eventually the moment is going to probably hurt them in the long run. And I think Brossoit hasn't really had that experience where Jonathan Quick is a freaking Conn Smythe winner. So when you have a Conn Smythe winner into the mix with a Vegas team that's looking dominant, you have to put him. I think you have to put him in Game 1. You tap Brossoit on the back and say, "Hey, man, you did a great job first series." But I think as the playoffs go on, as we get closer to a cup, we need to go with the guy that's won a Conn Smythe and Quick. So I agree with you, man. I think you put Jonathan Quick in Game 1 against the high-flying Edmonton team. And, hey, man, Jonathan Quick lost last year, first round to the Oilers, so he'll definitely be motivated as well. So I think you got to go with Quick in round 2 as well, man. I think that's a good shout. But now I want to end with the Avalanche beating the Kraken in Game 6. It's been a sweat for the Avalanche. Game 5, Makar was suspended. Did you see the Kraken go up 3-1? Or sorry, with a Game 4, they were up 3-1, and it's like, oh shit, is this where the Colorado Avalanche? Or sorry, was it 3? No, Game 5 he was out. It was 2-2, and then you see it happen, man. And what are your thoughts on that? First of all, I want to talk about the Makar suspension. Was it a suspension, or do you think it was more of just maybe like a major penalty? Because what I saw, it wasn't like he decked him into the boards. It was more he just kind of went right at him, and it wasn't necessarily a big hit. But what were your thoughts on Makar getting suspended? And do you see Seattle? Because I know you said Seattle winning this series. Kind of like my take with Florida. Do you see this one being an upset?
If it was going to be an upset, I think it would have been Game 6. I think that would have been perfect for them, and I think they let it slip because Makar, they took advantage of that game. It was one of those suspensions where I think the league was setting a tone, kind of like with Bunting, where they want to say, like, I know he hit him, but it was like one of those things. Like Bunting got suspended for something where it would have been just like maybe a match penalty type of thing, but I think the league wants to make sure that things don't get too crazy and they show that you're not going to get away with something like this. So go on that line a little bit. We don't want to get any long-term injuries here. And I think that's what they just did with Makar. So he comes back, and Colorado, Seattle going back and forth at times. I think Seattle had the lead at one point. But this is going to be a clutch game, and they do have that clutch performer. They have Jordan Eberle, and I won't count him out. I think he can still do it like he did on the Islanders, and I'll go with Seattle if it goes to overtime. But if this is going to be something where it's decided early, I think Colorado's motivated to prove that they don't want to be one of those teams that bounce back from a cup and get eliminated by an expansion team in their first playoff series.
So basically, what you're saying is for bettors out there, take Jordan Eberle
The
anytime goal
score.
scorer
Yep.
at plus 230 or something in Game 7. I like that. I think Eberle does have that clutch gene. We saw it in the World Juniors like 13 years ago, but this team has been resilient too. And I thought this was going to be a 6-game at most, and I was being generous. And Grubauer has played out of his skin, man. It's been phenomenal going up against his old team. And you know what we've seen from the star players in Colorado is that you have Rantanen, who just continues to score when he has to. McKinnon is a guy that just creates, and then of course you got Makar, who boo him all you want, Kraken fans, but he's going to torch you when he has the opportunity. So Georgiev hasn't been too impressive in this one. I think Grubauer has outplayed him in this series, but I think this one is. I agree with you. I think it's going to come down to like a 1-goal game, Game 7. It's been a very, very good series, and it's only beneficial for the league because I don't think anybody saw Seattle taking this one to 7 games. So, with that being said, that's the NHL playoffs. We talked about it quickly. Now we got to go to the NBA because Aulino. Woo! There have been many upsets so far in this one. We did have the Sixers sweep the Nets. We had the Celtics and the Atlanta Hawks. And of course, I got to talk more and more about this one. The Miami Heat, Jimmy Butler, or should we call him Jimmy Jordan? I don't know what we call him because he looked like Michael Jordan, honestly, man. I saw that one game he dropped like 56, and then the next game he ties it to go to overtime, and then he gets like 9 points in OT. Do you specifically blame the injury factor with the Bucks, or do you just think their offensive performance from their depth players was just inexcusable?
Yeah, I think their depth, that's inexcusable. Like, I know Giannis gets injured, but you're the first seed for a reason. The season you were able to have like that, and Miami was barely making the playoffs. Like that game against Chicago, they marked DeRozan well, and they limited them. But you're facing a team like this is a winnable situation, and to get upset like that, that means changes have to be made, whether it's coaching or maybe Milton. They have to get rid of and switch up their depth, and hope maybe that would add some different pieces around Giannis. But what I saw there, like they have to make some changes to their starting five. And if they want Giannis to be a part of this long term and be committed to it, you can't just hope that his talent alone is going to lead you to a championship. So for them, that's unfortunate. For Jimmy Butler, it's long overdue, another performance like that. And this is a team when they got Lowry, they were expecting to go to the finals every year or the last 2 years. And they put a team together that they thought would do so. They almost missed the playoffs this year, and that would have probably led to some changes there. But right now, they're sitting in the second round with a favorable matchup. So I think Miami, it's a successful year for them.
Doesn't this upset you if you're a Raptor fan? Like just the way it was lined up, Giannis gets hurt. I think if Giannis got hurt and the Raps played them, I think we would have won as well. So I'm not going to blame the injuries too much. I mean, when Giannis is out, it's a big impact. But there was another guy out on Miami, man. Tyler Hero broke his hand. Like, he didn't play either. So I think it's not obviously even, but Tyler Hero is one of those guys that come a fourth quarter, a third quarter, he's going to start becoming more aggressive and shooting the ball and making those shots. So Bam Adebayo, I thought his offensive game, I'll say this till the day I die. Like, it should be a lot better than it is. Like, he should be averaging like 22 points a game, but he only averaged like 15. But his defensive game was incredible. He had to go up against Brook Lopez, and it was just one of those situations where Bam, he shined, and he let Jimmy do his thing, and it worked out in a big way. And we've seen Jimmy Butler in the playoffs. Every time it comes to the playoffs, he's like a top 5 player. I don't know what it is with him. He just kind of turns this switch on, and he just continues to ball, and he refuses to go off. And Spoelstra just out-coached Budenholzer in this matchup. So I got to give all the credit to the Heat. They're moving on. They're going to take on – we'll talk about this other series, which to me I thought was a surprise as well. The Knicks beating the Cavs in 5 games, like that to me was a surprise as well. I thought this Cavs team with Mitchell, with Mobley, with Garland, I thought they would have put up a lot more of a fight against this Knicks team who is inexperienced in the playoffs. RJ Barrett hasn't really been in the playoffs before. Randall has, but hasn't shown glimpses of success. And the X factor here, Aulino, I've said this all year. He should have been an all-star. It's Jalen Brunson. The guy is just – he's gone to New York, and he's solidified himself as a legacy-type point guard. And they got more of the depth. They got – you saw great play from Quickly, from Mitchell Robinson down the stretch, from Quentin Grimes. I like this Knicks team a lot. I think they can probably beat the Heat, but that's definitely a series that I think is going to be really tight. But what did you think about this series? To me, I was shocked that it was 5 games.
Yeah, me too. I thought this was going 7. I thought they were pretty evenly matched. I thought it could have gone either way. And when the Knicks just beat them that easily, I thought for them, this is a fortunate win. But now you see what Milwaukee did, and it wasn't really because now you'd think they would have all this rest, but they both ended up in the same spot. So it's going to be interesting now to see them play against this Miami team who came off beating this injury-riddled Bucks team. So could be interesting. I wouldn't rule out the Knicks winning here, but I think this might be a little bit more back and forth than what we saw with the Cavs series.
I think it's a great result for the league, Aulino, because I will say if the Bucks beat the Heat here, I think they would beat the Knicks in 5. I don't think it would be close. But now that we see the Knicks and the Heat coming in here, I think this is like a toe-to-toe matchup. Great narratives all around. You got Jimmy Butler's play taking on Jalen Brunson's play. Julius Randle's another guy that's probably going to be matched up all series against Bam Adebayo. So it's going to be a fun series. I think this one's going to go 7 games as well. If I had to pick here, I got to go with the Knicks. They have the home court advantage, and we all know how bumping Madison Square Garden is right now for this club. So I'll go Knicks here. I think the Knicks are going to go to their first conference final, and I don't even remember. So I'm happy for Knicks fans. It's well overdue for them, and Jalen Brunson is their superstar that they got in free agency. They never needed Kyrie Irving. They never needed Kevin Durant. They got Jalen Brunson, and it seems like they're doing well. So things are going well for Stephen A. and Spike Lee there in New York, and I'm happy for them. So, but then we go to the other side of New York, and it didn't look too good with Brooklyn. They got swept by the Sixers. You had Bridges and Johnson, a cool story, Aulino. Joe Harris is a guy that could light you up whenever, but the mismatch was just too much. I mean, James Harden came in here, was making guys fall left and right, and Joel Embiid, he does have a knee injury going into the second round, but he absolutely torched the Nets. I think I did say 6 games in our preview, but what were your initial thoughts on this one? Do you think it was an easy one for Philly, and what do you expect them moving forward with the lineup?
Yeah, I thought it was really easy for them. A predictable series too, just because like Brooklyn, they're basically a new team that came together at the trade deadline, and it's like you're starting a preseason right from that point on, and then into the playoffs. So I'll give them a pass on this one. I think they showed that they have a lot of positives they can build on for next year, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do at the draft now with all these pieces that they can move around and free agency. So I think Brooklyn next year will be an improved team, but Philly, I think this is the spot they have to go in. They have to make a deep run. And Embiid, Harden, there's talks already about Harden going back to Houston, which is crazy, but this is going to be a make or break type of second round because if they get eliminated, we could probably look at another retool for the 76ers because Harden will probably dip, and then you're looking at Embiid and who you're going to surround him with. Tobias Harris is making a lot of money. I don't know how long his contract is, but could be rough next year if Philly is looking at another second round exit.
Now we saw them, dismantle Brooklyn, and then you look in Boston. They had a little bit more of a hard time with Atlanta. They went in 6 games. We saw the 3-pointers for Atlanta working late in the series with Trey Young and with a couple of the other guys like DeAndre Hunter, John Collins. What do you expect moving forward with this Atlanta team? Because there's been rumors that Trey Young might get traded. There's rumors John Collins might get traded. Similar situation like Philly, man. I think they're both in very similar situations. If Philly loses a series against Boston, which I do think will be the case with Embiid not 100%, I think both these teams are going to be teams to watch in the offseason. I don't necessarily know if trading Trey Young is a good idea, but if you have that in your head already, why not just pull the trigger, right? The NBA is a funny place for trading superstars.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past them. You look at all the guys that they have, you have a chance here where you can trade them all and make over this team exactly how you want. If you want an all 3-point specialist team, maybe you trade the guys around Trey Young and you get some 3-pointers in there or 3-point guys in there, and you build like an Eastern Conference Golden State type of team where you have all these guys that can drain threes, and like Dallas has some of those guys available. If they go after Bullock, that would be an interesting move. It wouldn't even cost probably a lot. So I think they can go in a different approach there, or you can go on the Brooklyn approach and trade your star players and get a bunch of two-way guys in there and maximize the cap space and draft picks and do like a 3-year plan there where in a few years you're going to be looking at a deadly defensive team. So I don't think it's too bad for them because they have a lot of pieces, but it's unfortunate because the fan base had to struggle with all those losing seasons. That one year they went to the conference final and had that 60-win year, and it looked like they were back, and now it looks like they have to rebuild again.
Yeah, man, and we got the second round matchup with the Celtics and the Sixers. I'm gonna go with the Celtics in 6 games. I just think you look at the depth, you look at Tatum and Brown, the best wings in the NBA. The duo is just dominant. They'll drop 25 each every game. Marcus Smart is probably going to defend Harden to perfection in this one. What do you think about this series? I think I got to go with Boston and the Knicks, man, in this conference final.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Boston. Unfortunately, with Philly, it is going to be a depth problem for them. They have guys that can get hot at different moments, but the consistency I don't think is there. And I think Boston's going to take advantage. If we already saw, like if Tatum has a pretty bad game to his standards, Jaylen Brown can get 30 points. And Horford can come in. He can get some threes here and there. He can be reliable. So I think Boston wins it.
And now we got to move on quickly to the Western Conference. We'll start at the top. The Nuggets absolutely, making quick work of the Wolves. Maybe not as expected. I had the Nuggets in 6 games here, but Anthony Edwards did show promise, man. He would drop 30 points almost every single game. Towns did actually get shut down pretty good by Gordon and Jokic, something I did not expect. But if you're the Timberwolves, is this a winning type of season, or do you think this is just another season where this franchise is in limbo?
Yeah, it's one where they're in limbo. I think when they made that trade for Gobert, they were probably looking at a top 5 finish, and They were in a play-in type of finish, so this is a bad year for them. They have to get something figured out of getting these guys to click on the court. On paper, they have a great team, but once they actually play, it's not working out. So it's a bad season for them, and just the way it ended. Denver taking care of business there, and I think they showed that they mean business here. Jamal Murray had a nice game there, and Jokic is MVP form. So it's going to be interesting now going forward with that team.
Yeah, they do have the depth too. You think about it. Aaron Gordon's playing well. You got Michael Porter Jr. who's looking healthy. I like this team as well. I really like the Denver Nuggets here. So, but then we got to go on, and this is unfortunate because it was looking like such a great series. The Clippers losing. Was it 5 games or 6 games?
Yeah, 5 games.
In five, yeah. So they win game one and then they lose 4 in a row. Kawhi gets injured, tears his meniscus, which is like a terrible injury. Russell Westbrook, I don't think he's a scapegoat here, man. He played phenomenal the whole series. Paul George was injured. Norman Powell and Westbrook were the two guys to me that shined. I thought Zubac was going to play a lot better in the mismatch against Aiden, as we see Aiden is not the best rebounder. So Kevin Durant shined. Devin Booker was an offensive powerhouse, and Chris Paul is just the professor on the court. He starts everything, ends everything. So what were your thoughts on this series? I think it was unfortunate Kawhi went down quickly because we were in for, I think, a 7-gamer.
Yeah, so unfortunate. Like that flash that we saw him and Westbrook that one game, that was the kind of potential I think everybody saw in this team that they could have taken out Phoenix. He was a Terminator there. Went in there and stole that game, and then once they said that he's going to be out for the knee injury, I kind of thought, okay, he's shutting down for the series because he on the Raptors he played when his knee was bothering him. You can see him physically that even though he didn't look 100%, there were times where he was involved in all the plays. So for him to not be suiting up for that game, it was a more serious injury than they led on to believe, and now we found out that it was. So Norm Powell, like you can only do so much there against those guys on Phoenix. It was great to see him have that kind of performance again. And Russell Westbrook, like he had to hear all those years now on the Lakers how he was a problem, and he comes in and he was a focal point for the Clippers, and he was keeping them in games at some points. And it was nice to see him and KD, that show of respect that they had. And it's gonna be next year. I don't know what they're gonna do with Westbrook. He was on that minimum level exemption. So do they go back with those three? Does Westbrook maybe look around at the best fit? Now he has an opportunity where his contract's not going to be a burden for all these teams, and he can make it work. So Westbrook's going to be a free agent to look out for.
I like it. Yeah, I think the Raptors are a team where you take a chance on him, maybe give him $5 million. Why the hell not? I think he'd be a great motivator, a great leader for a guy like Scotty Barnes. I think if you're the Raps, maybe go out and maybe take a shot on him on a 1-year deal. I don't think there's any harm in that, but got to move on now. We got the Kings and the Warriors going 7 after last night. You know, De'Aaron Fox, what did he sprained his finger. It doesn't matter. He's still going to play. He's going to put up the points. And we've seen in the games where the depth scoring in Sacramento's work, they've beat the crap out of the Warriors. They beat them by at least 15 in those games. Malik Monk is a great guy that can score. Sabonis hasn't been too offensive in this one, but he's been doing defensive matchups the whole time. And De'Aaron Fox is that guy, man. He's been phenomenal. He won the Clutch Player of the Year. And it looks like this one is going to come down to, you know, who scores more and who's more consistent. And like last year, I know they won it all, but Jordan Poole in some games just does not look good. Klay Thompson has actually been really good in this series, which is a bright spot for Golden State. Aulino, I know it's a coin flip. I know it's game 7, but I got to go with Golden State here on the road. I just think you have a potential matchup with LeBron in the second round. I think if you're Adam Silver, that's too much to pass up.
Yeah, like Golden State here, I think Steph Curry is circling in that second round right now. This is one he's been thinking about once the Lakers took out Memphis. So I'd like to see Golden State get some revenge here on the Lakers for taking them out of that play-in a couple years ago. And it was like Steph Curry and an injured roster taking on LeBron and the Lakers. So that'll be a nice little rematch. This one has been like experience versus this mentality of young players like Fox and Sabonis have come in, and it's been impressive. So glad that Sacramento finally had this. That franchise has suffered enough, and whether they win or lose, I think they can look back and look at this positively. So I'll go Golden State, and it's going to be an interesting Final Four if we see Curry, LeBron, and on the other end you got Paul and Durant against Jokic and Jamal Murray. So I'm looking forward to this Western Conference bracket.
And yeah, quickly we'll go over the second round matchups. If let's say we'll go with Golden State here. Just to go with it. Suns and Nuggets though. Is this a 7-game series? And the Nuggets do have home court advantage, but I got to go with the Suns here.
I'm going to go Denver just because I think Jokic is a little upset now. It's been too many years. They just haven't been able to get through that hump, and I think they're going to go after DeAndre Ayton. I think they're going to go after him hard. They're going to make sure he gets the ball because they know he's never wanted to be there from the start, and they're just going to attack him. Every time he gets the ball, they're going to make sure he's open, make some infighting going on with Phoenix, and I think they're going to take care of that matchup there. Jokic and Ayton, I would give the ball to Jokic the whole time, let him facilitate there. You have Jamal Murray, you can get hot from three, but I think it's going to come down to that center matchup if Denver want to go to the conference final.
I like it, man. I think at the end of the day, nobody is like Kevin Durant out there, and you got to give all the credit to him. He's gotten 2 triple-doubles in this playoffs, which is very impressive because we know that Kevin Durant's playmaking is underrated and undervalued, but what we've seen him do so far is it's different. It's something that I don't think I've ever seen him do, which is like a pass-first game plan for him. But Devin Booker's been shining. I don't know if anybody could really guard Booker on this team. Like, is it Murray? Is it Porter? I don't really know because they're going to be so focused on KD. I think Gordon's the guy guarding Kevin Durant. Jokic will be on Ayton, like you said. Obviously, I think that Denver will have their strengths here, but at the end of the day, I just got to give the edge to Phoenix here. I'll go Phoenix in 7 games, but then you got these two. Like if it's Golden State and LA, every game I'm watching that. Like this is going to be fireworks. 2 guys chasing 5 rings. Curry and LeBron both have 4. Who would you take in this one, and who would be the X factor?
I would take Golden State, and I think the X factor would be Steph Curry. I think too long that he's been a little bit disrespected. Like as soon as KD went there was already that narrative, oh, he didn't win the finals MVP. He finally got the finals MVP. It took a while, but he got it. And he was clearly the best player as soon as he came back from an injury last year. So I think we'll see Curry take advantage of the matchup with the Lakers. And you would have to hope that like Poole gets healthy, figures it out, whatever was bothering him this year, because last year he was phenomenal. Thompson improved. Wiggins, you got to figure out him too. And Draymond Green, you got to keep him in the lineup. So I think Draymond Green kind of cost him against Sacramento, one of those games for what he did. And if he didn't do that, maybe we're looking at Golden State already in this second round. So I think Golden State have the depth, chemistry, and championship caliber team that they could probably edge out LeBron here.
I agree. I'm a Laker guy, but I think Curry gets out of this game 7. He's definitely scared. I mean, I don't remember the last game 7 he's had, to be honest with you. And, you let Curry get away with a first round series win, all hands on deck. He's going to be firing on all cylinders moving forward. So, Aulino, I'm not going to lie to you. We've seen repeats in the past. We've seen Golden State take on Miami and take on Cleveland. Do you see Boston and Golden State going for round 2 this year, or do you maybe see Denver or maybe the Knicks being that team to change that narrative?
I think it's possible. Like the East is so wide open. Like I know Boston and Philly right now are probably the ones people are looking at the winner of the series to go to the final. But what we've seen out of the Knicks and Miami right now for getting into the playoffs and the way they've been able to play, maybe they're the two hottest teams. So I wouldn't put it. I think the East is wide open, and the West. If Jokic can get to the final, I'd like to see how he performs under that kind of pressure. And he's had to hear that narrative too, like he's winning these MVPs, but nobody looks at him as best player in the league because of not winning the final. He has a opportunity here to shut a lot of those guys up, and would be interesting. Like if he can get through Minnesota with that kind of team, get through this Phoenix Suns team, and then get through a four-time champion and what either Golden State, the Lakers. We've got to talk about putting him in the category with some of the other great big men in the league.
Absolutely, I agree. But Aulino, do you want to talk more about WWE, or do you want to maybe save that for next week when we do our Backlash preview?
Yeah, just we'll go on a quick little note there of that new title that they put out. Are you liking it, or do you think they should have just
Absolutely.
brought it back? You
Oh, I
like?
love it. It's my childhood basically. I'll say this: when growing up, we've seen Undertaker, we've seen Triple H, we've seen the greats hold that belt. It really brought a lot of value to Raw back in the day, and then we saw later on in the 2007 to 2011, that was where the world title was belonging on SmackDown. But man, the one feud that I remember vividly from the world heavyweight title was Batista and Undertaker. I thought that feud is just one of those where I look at this belt and it to me it's well overdue. That's the appropriate word. The Universal title, I said to you, it had a great run, man. It's been 7 years. So this is finally an opportunity where you can bring back a little bit. It's an old school belt with a new modern touch, which I think is perfect. I like the way how Triple H, the guy that Eric Bischoff handed him that belt first time, he now reintroduces it back. I love it. Alino, what are your thoughts on it? Because I felt like a kid out there again.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a nice little old school touch, and it has like the updated logo on it. So they brought that same kind of design. So I think it just adds, because I know a lot of fans wanted this kind of title back, the big gold belt. It's a popular one. So I'm surprised they didn't do it with the Universal title. They both think what I didn't like about it is they look similar. It just had the logo and that just changed the color of the strap from red to black and blue after. So I think this is different. Both world titles are different, adds their own little meaning to it, add their own little legacy. So I'm with you. I like it.
Now, in terms of who you think is going to be the first guy to get it, we do understand that at the Saudi show later in May, they're going to actually have, is it a tournament or they're going to announce? I'm pretty sure it's a tournament to win this belt. Aulino, we've seen, again, you're on Sports Keto. We've seen a lot of names thrown out there to win this belt, from the Cody Rhodes to the Drew McIntyre to the Seth Rollins, even Roman Reigns and like Brock Lesnar. Who do you think is the likely guy to walk out as the first new modern world heavyweight champion?
Oh, I hope it's not Cody. Like, imagine they did this whole thing where the story and he's chasing the title, he loses it only to win the world title that is similar to the one his dad actually won. I think that would be a way to just throw him a title. So I'll say like Cody, just save it. Maybe he beats Roman, he wins a Money in the Bank and wins that like SummerSlam or something. This one, I think Seth Rollins would be a nice pick. He's been a guy that's been there for a long time, grinding and changed his character from that cringy babyface he was when he beat Brock for the title.
That was
So I
brutal.
think I think now with this character getting over with fans, he would be one. Drew McIntyre, if he turns heel, he didn't really get to be champion in front of a crowd. He did it with just screens around him. I think he deserves either a meaningful match again or a meaningful feud for it. But yeah, one of those two guys. Brock would be like an easy name, but it's going to be something similar. He'll be there for the feud, and then after that, he'll lose. It'll be predictable. He'll lose a title. So I hope they go with a guy like Seth Rollins and Drew, and you keep Brock for some of these other big feuds because now Imperium is on Raw, and maybe we see those two interact throughout the year until they wrestle at Mania.
Aulino, I'm thinking about all the names that I've talked about in my childhood, and there's one guy that has not been around for a bit. Can you see Randy Orton? I don't know what his status is with his injury, but maybe they keep his name under the radar, under the rug for a bit, just to be the first world heavyweight champion. Because if I remember, he did not lose it after winning the unified belt. So, can you see Randy Orton taking back his title that he never lost?
Oh man, if they keep him under wraps and he comes up at the Saudi show, I think they would lose their minds there. Randy Orton returning, winning the title. That would be a nice moment. So I wouldn't mind it if Randy comes back to win it.
I think I know, again, you talk about nostalgia, and there's guys that you're tired of winning belts, but this is a guy that's been well deserving. You look at his 2020 run as probably one of the most impressive runs he's ever had, and even aligning with Matt Riddle and becoming the tag champs and having that banger at WrestleMania. I think it's just you look at a guy like Randy who's just continued to reinvent himself. I think he's deserving of another title and another opportunity to main event, maybe one last time. But another name, Aulino, that I think is also tricky. I don't know what his status is. He didn't have that WrestleMania match, but how about Bray Wyatt or Finn Balor being an option to win the World Heavyweight title here?
If Finn Balor wins it, I hope they have any idea for his character, because if he's just gonna come out as a Judgment Day, I don't know what they've done to him, but he came out of a loss there at WrestleMania in the Hell in a Cell, and now with Judgment Day, it looks like Rhea Ripley is getting more of the shine there as a leader more than Finn. So if he does win it, they would have to do something where he's presented as a main event guy and not just a guy in a faction on Raw.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, either way, man, when I saw they announced this, when Triple H had the big announcement, I'm like, okay, this is it's either someone's returning or they're making a belt, and they made a new belt, so it's great to see, and it was so appropriate that it was nobody other than Triple H to introduce it. I thought that was also a great touch, because again, you go back to 2002, Eric Bischoff just here's your title, take it.
Can you imagine if Dominic Mysterio wins the title? How pissed off everybody would be. And you have Ray and him feud for it. Ray wins it, and then whoever wins the Money in the Bank just ends that party right away.
That would be hilarious. I think they got to start small with Dominic, maybe have him win the U.S. title or the Intercontinental, and then you move to the World Heavyweight. But the amount of heat that he's garnered, man, on this run, why not give him the belt?
That'd be jokes.
Yeah, man. We're gonna do next week. We're gonna talk more about the draft, the overall results. We'll talk about Backlash. We'll preview that next week, and as these playoffs keep on rolling, we'll quickly talk more about the narratives and the results as these playoffs keep on moving. But as always, this is In the Zone. Chris Martelli, Giancarlo Aulino, signing out. We'll see you guys next week.